I prevented my father from moving in with his new girlfriend because I refused to play nice. Well, things come with a couple consequences. Let me show you. So, some background information. My mother had me at 17. She was never a mother to me, and I was raised by my grandparents and later my uncle. When I was 8, my grandma got sick, and my uncle, who was 22 at this time, started taking me in, and I moved in with him full-time at age 12. I only saw my mother for family events, and she was always criticizing me. How I looked, my hobbies, what I liked. By 14, I refused to talk and or see her. When I was 18, my uncle proposed to legally adopt me. I decided to go see my mother one last time to inform her and have some closure. During this talk, she told me my father's name. I talked to my family about him, and long story short, basically everybody knew him. His family lived in the same town as my great-grandparents, and my family used to go there every holiday. So, I decided to try to meet my father going with my uncle. He's 36 and moved back a few years to be back close to his family, and he took everything pretty well. I did make sure to inform him that I already had a dad. He told me he had no children and was interested in knowing me. He presented me to his parents, and they found even some old pictures of me with him from before he went to college. For the last 2 years, we had a pretty great relationship. He also got along well with my uncle. At college, I called him once a week, and I see him pretty often. The issue is his girlfriend, Anna. They don't live together and have been a couple for over 3 years. She made it clear that I had no place here. After a few encounters with her, she reminded me so much of my mom. Her attitude, her remarks, and critics that I refused to go see him for a while. I think he realized because he told me that she did not need to be here every time. I only see her when I go to eat with him at his parents'. She still manages to make it clear that I don't belong in this family. When I question, she tells me stuff like, "If you're really a part of the family, you should know," always pointing physical differences out. So it was a surprise when she called me last week. I thought it was an emergency, so I answered. She told me that she wanted to move in with my dad, but he refused because he knows we don't get along, and he wanted his house to be a safe place for me, and he was afraid I would come by less if she was here all the time. It's the truth. She then told me I should put my grudges aside and try to be nicer to her for my father's sake. I told her no. I had years of therapy to be able to remove toxic people from my life, and being with her is like with my mother. I don't want to put myself in this kind of situation anymore. I talked to my uncle and he agrees. For him, my mental health should always be my top priority, but some other people think that I should at least make an effort for my father's happiness, and that it would be selfish to not try. What's up guys, Mr. Reddito here. There's an update for this story we're going to hop into and things start to heat up. Guys, if you want to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these updates, go ahead and click that button now and activate those notification bells. Here is your update. So at first, I wasn't sure about making an update, but the comments I got really helped me. You were all saying what my uncle and some friends were saying to me, but it's different hearing it from people who don't know me and aren't biased. After reading your comments, I realized what the issue was. When I explained my family situation to people, a lot of them, not close friends and immediate family, say the same thing. How lucky I am to have a bio dad who wants and agrees to spend time to get to know me. How grateful I should be, ugh. My bio dad or his family never made me feel like that, but I guess that after hearing a lot of people saying it, it kind of got to me and I realize now that I was restraining myself to not disappoint him. I guess, in my mind, I had to work and be nice to have his affection because I did not deserve it. Well, you can blame my bio mom for that. Anyways, after realizing that I also realized that I never told him and his parents, how his girlfriend was treating me, and I also realized she was smart enough to do it when they were all out of earshot. I'm a non-confrontational person, and I was scared to say everything at once to my bio dad. And I was just afraid I wasn't going to be able to voice myself properly and say everything I wanted to convey. I talked to my uncle about it, and he proposed to make an appointment with a therapist to have a kind of family session, so it would be easier for me to express myself. We did it before in our family, and it's helped a lot. We talked about it to my bio dad, and he immediately agreed. He could sense that something was off. Anyways, during the session, I kind of exploded. I started talking and could not stop myself. At first, I felt that it made no sense because I was saying everything and nothing at once. But luckily, the therapist helped a lot. We all had a very long talk and put everything on the table. I'm talking everything. My bio dad had no idea that it was this bad with his girlfriend, and he was really appalled and remorseful for not realizing it. Something that angered him and my uncle a lot was the comment about me not looking like my dad, which I never took notice of because, well, it's true. My mom and uncle are half Filipino, and I took everything from the Filipino side except for his little dimples. Apparently, the comments about me not being part of the family was because of my racial background. So yeah, on top of everything, she's a racist. Ugh. All this happened last month, and since then he broke up with her, and I try to be more honest about what I feel without being afraid of what he thinks. He also proposed to continue family therapy if I feel like it would help me talk to people about certain topics. This relationship's still a work in progress, but honestly, I feel very good about it. And some of you asked, but yes, my uncle adopted me when I turned 18. So again, thank you for your help and your kind words. I was really expecting to be called an a-hole when I wrote the original post. I want to read this comment. So, you saved yourself from an awful situation, your bio dad in your relationship, and your bio dad from continuing a horrible relationship, all by communicating. I hope that you know how brave that was, and now have learned how powerful communication can be. So many hugs to you for doing the difficult but right thing. Hugs to your dad, uncle, but the semantics. He's done a great job raising you and to be your bio father. I'm so sorry that your bio mother and bio dad's ex have shown you such poor examples of maternal figures. Guys, I want to know, do you agree with that statement? Drop your own thoughts about the story in the comment section down below. If you want to subscribe to the channel, you can find all my channel links in the description, and it's going to have all 3 of my channels, which I upload daily to on each one. So if you want more stories, check that out. The next story we're going to look at today. The title is, Jenny, who had been spoiled since childhood, thought it was her right to have everything wonderful in life. Well, things don't always go as planned, Jenny. Well, family may be family until the money comes along. Here's my story. Jenny, my sister, who's 25, was always this entitled brat who believed she was entitled to everything in this wonderful little life. She never worked or supported the family, but always asked for handouts from me. I loved my family, therefore I always gave her what little I had, just to maintain the link between us strong. Jenny did not care where or how I obtained the money. All she cared about was the money. I won't say I felt awful for doing it to her, but I did feel bad that she just cared about herself. I recall one amusing incident. We were still young girls, and my sister had passed puberty. She was always bragging to me about finding a wealthy man out here in this world. A guy who would rescue her from the poverty she's fallen into with us. Yeah, her family. I recall being so outraged that we fought for a long time, hurling insults at each other back and forth. But Jenny was the kind to be obstinate. She did not care what counsel I, my father, my mother, and the rest of the family had given her that day. So, to console myself, I simply assumed she was one of those zodiac signs that let her star sign govern her. Okay, I knew it was foolish, but still. Something had to be done to not make me mad and hateful at the time of my life. Jenny dated several guys during her life. When it came to Jenny, we saw them all, but there was something she loathed in every one of them, and that was because they did not have enough money to support her lifestyle. She did not care how attractive or how smart they were. All she wanted was a man with money. As time passed, I advanced my degree in my field and landed a position with a big corporation. Jenny thought it was pointless for me to work my heart out without hunting for a man or sharing her flirty ideas. I used to blame it on my parents. Jenny had been so spoiled by them when she was younger that they saw nothing wrong with her actions. She was the ideal child in their eyes. You can imagine how that affected me as a kid when my parents ignored me in favor of her. I felt alone, unwelcome. But as fate would have it, I began to act like an adult, believing that I wanted to be happy. I had to make it myself and not rely on a single soul. As time passed, my parents' focus changed from Jenny to me. They suddenly saw me as this magnificent kid, and Jenny as the rotten apple. Although I knew it was bad, what could I do? "Why don't you act like a normal lady for a change?" Jenny would say, as I recalled her jealous comments like, "Why don't you seek for a man instead of working out?" Excuse me, but I don't recall asking your permission to probe into my business. While working at my desk, I would inform her that. "Do you think you'll become rich off this?" she asked me. "There's so much to do out there, other than sitting and hitting keys on the keyboard and some foolish computer. You may have a dazzling car, trendy clothes, and beautiful jewelry." "Jenny, my lovely sister," I would say quietly to her, "this ridiculous job was part of the money you got last month to restore your hair. This ridiculous job was part of the money you used to buy a new phone, and it's been maintaining this home that you live in for a long time. In fact, I doubt you'd have all that pleasure you have today if it weren't for this stupid job." When she fought with that argument, I thought I had her. She simply huffed and went away. I had no idea what Jenny expected from me, but I tried my hardest to be a role model for her. But she seemed to have a different notions running through her mind, believing she could not succeed without a guy. Sometimes I wonder who gave her such an idea. So one day, I went on a date with this wonderful man that I met online through Tinder. And I told my mother, who's 65, who was clearly overjoyed for me. "Oh my," she said, jumping up and down. "Is he wealthy?" We both chuckled as I nodded. I think the use of that phrase drew my sister out of hiding. "Who's wealthy?" she started to inquire. My mother merely maintained a neutral expression when she entered the dining room. "Come on," she urged. "Can someone please explain why there's so much good news in the air? I heard you guys in the other room for a bit, so spill the beans. I have a right to know." "We're not going to tell you anything," my mother said. "Go to the kitchen and clean your dirty dishes." "I'd never touch that," she insisted. "Do you not notice my nails?" "Do you expect me to wipe dirty dishes with my pricey nails after they're all fixed and cleaned?" "Not at all, Mother." "What good are those nails if you can't be accountable?" My mom was having none of it today. "How come you can't find a wealthy man like your sister, Kayla?" That word must have flashed across my sister's mind as she just stared at me like a deer in headlights. She began to murmur, "Oh, wealthy man. She's found a rich guy," she said dismissively. "Is that your concern?" my mother said firmly. Well, Jenny was taken aback. I could tell by the look of her face she had no clue how she would keep her envy from me. I could see it shining. So despite all her boasting over the years, I was going to marry a rich guy before she did. Jenny was dissatisfied with the news. Throughout the week, she began to act strangely. She would ignore me and appear to despise the sight of me. Well, I was concerned because I wasn't the type of person who could hold a grudge for so long. So I had the bravery to grab her attention and speak with her. "What do you want?" she said with her arms folded like the brat that she always is. "Don't you ever change?" I advised her while smiling a little to relax. "What do you mean?" "You're folding your arms like a 6-year-old, Jenny. I remember you doing that in junior high when you came to report some bullies in your class who would not leave you alone." Yeah, she recalled because she started smiling carelessly. "But you know I despise you." "Oh, you don't have to despise me, Jenny. All you have to do is smile for me." "So, how rich is he? Does he have $1 million or $1 billion?" Well, she cut me off before I could even tell her. "I knew he was a billionaire," she stated proudly. "My sister has a sharp eye for the nice stuff." What could I possibly say? All that mattered to me was that she was happy now. I just wanted her to know that I still loved her like a big sister, and that I would not back down from my responsibility to help her in any way I could. "I want to confess, Kayla," she told me quietly. I turned to face her and listened intently. My sister was speaking to me very calmly. Then this was certain to be triumph. "What exactly is it?" I asked. She apologized to my family for all that she's done to me, especially me, and she asked me to give her one chance to make things right if she could change for the better. There was no way I could deny her as a sister of the same blood. It made me quite happy that she was eager to change. We hugged for nearly an hour. I was all teary-eyed when she informed me, "Well, are you going to introduce me to your husband?" she inquired. "I want to see him." So I agreed. A few weeks later, Tony's wedding went off without a hitch. Watching my sister be kind and responsible to my boyfriend and family was wonderful. Anyone who did not know better would have assumed she was the naive sort. Jenny was really good at acting, and her charm worked on everyone, even my husband, who had been complimenting her since the day he first saw her, until now. Jenny got preoccupied with paying us visits after we moved in months after the wedding. She would also flirt with my partner directly in front of me, which was unsettling to say the least. But I could not do anything because she was my sister, and I did not want to tarnish my sister's reputation in front of my partner. I kept her secret and expected her to know and act properly, which I thought she did, but that was not the case. But there was one performance that truly turned me off, and it was at this point that she paid her so-called visit, carrying chocolates and flowers for my partner. I had to ask her what she was up to, but she acted as if she had no idea what I was implying. I was angry with her, because I knew that she knew what I was talking about, but she attempted to make me appear stupid, like she often did when we were children, and Mother would frequently side with her. I wonder not to send my hubby presents again. I also mentioned that we have not even had children yet, and she comes over too frequently as if there's children in the house to play with. I told her I despised her acts towards my man, and that she should not act that way because she could think that I didn't care about him. Her reaction to me, well, it was timeless. She laughed loudly as if I was some kind of idiot. It was offensive to watch her act this way towards me. I told her the way she was laughing and how serious I was about everything I'd said, but she made me feel puny, telling me I was just crazy and envious because she was more beautiful than me. I embraced her comments with excellent fortune, as she strongly matched across. I thought she claimed that she changed for the better, but I don't notice any changes. I see a pampered brat who had gotten more vicious as I recall. I also attempted to find out why she was doing that to my partner and why she wanted to ruin my marriage. Following our dispute, I informed my mother, but my mother had merely urged me to ignore it because she knew my sister well. Jenny, she reasoned, would never be so desperate as to actually destroy her own sister's home. She said that Jenny could do many things, but she could never aim for a married man, especially her sister's. I had to accept my mother's firm comments. Jenny could not possibly be the heartless one to me. She seemed to believe, and I agreed. Then my husband, Tony, began slipping away from me over time. He was impatient with everything I said. I tried to address his cost with me, and he would constantly just shout at me, calling me a greedy cheeseball, and other derogatory terms. There were days when I cried hard and wished for him to alter his mind. I'd always wished for the Tony that I met, not this Tony who transformed overnight. Well, Jenny kept paying her visits. Whenever she came to visit, I would communicate my feelings to her. I'd tell her what Tony did to me and what she suggested that I do, and she'd give me advice in a pitiful tone. Jenny had not ceased visiting us after more than 2 years of marriage. When I arrive home from work, I'll notice them laughing loudly as they watch a movie together. I felt horrible when I noticed this, but I didn't want what I saw to be mistaken thoughts or sentiment towards my sister to get the best of me. I attempted to accept that I was hallucinating. Tony would arrive late, and if he did arrive early, it would be in my sister's arms. And he looked so happy. I was aware of what was going on, but I denied it to myself. I could not accept the reality that my sister was attempting to destabilize my marriage by flirting with my own husband in front of my eyes. One day, when I returned home after buying food for the house, Tony approached me and asked for my attention. It struck me as weird because Tony rarely asked for my attention on anything, much alone something important. My thoughts at the moment were that he wanted to talk to me about money. I could see he was nervous as he sat me down. I inquired as to what was up with him not speaking out. The only idea that sprang to my mind was that he had drained our funds. Then he dropped the bombshell. He desired the dissolution of our marriage. Divorce. I was instantly startled. What on earth was he doing to me? What was he punishing me for? What have I ever done to him? Many questions sprung into my head, and I had to ask if I've ever done anything to him that he felt awful about. I also begged to change for the better, making all the promises I could muster up, but he was unwavering. He'd taken the decision to call it quits. That night, I sobbed uncontrollably. What have I ever done wrong? I couldn't sleep because I kept asking the same question over and over. Well, he gave me the divorce papers to sign in the next few weeks, and I gladly agreed and did what he asked. Fortunately for me, according to state law, he could not take any of my money since I wasn't required to establish a binding, contractual connection with him. As soon as I finished signing, I had to inquire who she was. He was ready to leave the kitchen where I was thinking about my miserable existence. As he turned to face me, seeming slightly sad for me, I could see it in his eyes. He told me he did not want to hurt me, but did not think that we were destined to be together. I urged him to tell me who. I wouldn't be furious. All I needed to know was who he was going to be with. Then he did it. He looked me in my eyes and he told me, "My sister." I felt like my heart was going to explode. What in the world did he just say to me? Was Jenny, Jenny to blame for our breakup? I sighed and dialed her number immediately, and we started talking. "Yes, sister, how are you?" "Oh, so tell me how much of a sleazeball you are. You're a demon, a wicked soul. See how you've wrecked my life? What did I ever do to you?" Excuse me? Stop making me feel foolish." I yelled at her and she hung up the phone. I wanted a piece of her now, to grab her hair and make her regret breaking my marriage. I sobbed all day. The following day, I informed my mother about the issue. My mother apologized for her error and expressed regret. She had also told me to come into the home if I felt lonely so she could console me. And yeah, I needed that. So I went to her without hesitation. My mother consoled me and advised me not to bother Jenny while I was in her house. She also told me not to worry since I would see someone who was better. Jenny, on the other hand, could not care less, and I mean it. She was absolutely overjoyed that she's gotten what she desired. But something was bothering me. Jenny, as I knew, adored having someone wealthy. That was all she desired in this life. So why did she settle with Tony if she wanted someone wealthy? I had no choice but to ask her, but despite my efforts, she prevented me from speaking to her. She cautioned me or said flippantly that she did not want to hear my poisonous comments. I was so astonished that I had to find a way to ask her about the one crucial issue that's been bothering my soul. After a month, it was her wedding day with my ex. I could see they were both pleased with each other. Jenny also relaxed a little with me. I just went ahead and gave up and forgave her to move on. So, with the light attitude towards me, I had to inquire in some manner, but she was the one who approached me. "Kayla," she remarked, wearing a lovely bridal gown, "I'd want to ask you a question." I was going to ask you something, but since you asked, let's talk about it. "So, what exactly is it?" She asked me, "Is Tony frugal? Despite his wealth, he rarely provides me money to do what I want." I was taken aback. "What do you mean?" I asked her. "I mean, Tony's wealthy, but he's a stingy man," she explained. "How come?" Oh my God. I burst out laughing and could not stop myself. I almost peed. Jenny, I suspect, was humiliated. She truly had no idea what she was getting herself into. I informed her immediately that she had made the incorrect decision since Tony was neither rich nor poor. I went on to say that he was as poor as a church mouse and that I had to support him for the duration of our marriage. Jenny was taken aback. She could not hide her emotion, and I could see her eyes well up with tears. She began to murmur a no, as she walked backward, appalled by her situation. She then burst into tears, and I explained why she was weeping. She was upset because she told her friends he was a billionaire, and they all assumed she was marrying a wealthy nobleman. But there was nothing she could do. No turning back now, Jenny. He's yours. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this one. I want to know your thoughts and comments down below. I'm only going to ask you one question. And I need to know the answer for this one. So, I need to know, was this the most karma-driven story that we've ever had on the channel? I mean, Jenny had nothing but karma at the end of it for how she treated everybody in life. All she wanted was her rich husband, and turns out she thought she had one. Until karma came a-knockin'. Guys, that's all the stories I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to my other channels, which you can find in the description below. Have a wonderful day, and remember, it's cool to be kind.